Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to the Ghost and Molly McGee episode 8. So, you may have noticed very little has been put up this week, which was not planned. Last week it was planned, but this week not as much. Just various reasons have kept me from being able to reliably record unless I moved everything into my room, and that's a hassle for multiple reasons, one of which being my room is not great with temperature, especially when people have the heat on so high all day. Out here it's fine, it's just when I'm in my room it like traps in the heat so bloody much. I have to have a fan going in the winter basically, and that's not fun. But then there was also some mental health stuff regarding my upcoming birthday and everything. So it's just a lot of things this week with that, and with my father being home from work this week, has kept me from being able to basically find the motivation to record. As well as just having the ability. But I think as of right now, as I'm recording this, which is, I'm recording this on Thursday night, my father's off bowling, my mental health is okay at the moment, I think I'm good to record some things. So I'm going to try to get as much recorded as possible. So yeah. Not really too much to talk about with this, because you don't really have to talk about like where we left off because it's episodic. There's not really any ongoing plot or anything at the moment. So it's like I just want to see more of the good stuff, more of the same. With this series, it's mostly everything that's been pretty damn good. And I've just been enjoying the hell out of it. So I want to see more of that. I want to see more of my favorite characters as well, of course. Libby, Andrea. And just more of these good time shenanigans that are just really well written, voice acted, directed, all of that jazz. So we're just going to get this started. Hope for the best. Let's do it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. And just one last thing I almost forgot to mention. I'll mention it at the beginning of the reaction too, but just mentioning it here. The episode where I get the episodes from was cut up into 8A and 8B, and I forgot to put them together, so we're just gonna kind of have to deal with them being separate video files. I'll have to open the second part of it. I apologize for that, but yeah, either way, thank you so much once again, and for now, I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So it's like I mentioned in both the video earlier this week and in the pre-thoughts here that part of the reason I've been not being able to get to this stuff this week and everything was because of my just mental health, my emotional health and everything, and just dealing with turning 30 and everything just has gotten me really fucking down. And it's like, if I could just watch this show like on repeat, like over and over and over again, I would. But the thing is, without being finished with at least what's released so far, it would just it would tempt me way too much to continue on past where I'm at with these reactions. And it's like, because the thing is, every time I watch this show, I'm just filled with so much happiness. It's like, as I've stated in past videos, it's become a comfort show for me. And so it's like, I think that was one of the big reasons why, like, even during this week, I haven't been watching this. I've looked up, like, stuff like fan art and stuff, but I didn't want to watch it in case I got tempted to just watch more on my own, because I didn't want to do that. And again, with not having as much free time and availability and everything to record, due to my father being home most of the time, that also hurt that as well. I haven't been able to just like record it on my own time either. So it's like, now that I get the chance, now that I'm in a good mental space, getting to watch this very much helped. It's just, it felt like this is just something I needed at this time. And on top of just in general this show being great, we also had both halves of this episode dealing heavily with Libby, and again, as I stated, favorite character, and she was so phenomenal in both halves of this episode that it's just, I really enjoyed it to that regard. So let's talk about these. So the first half of this episode, the first mini-sode, is about historical revisionism. Molly is obsessed with this tall tale figure from the past, similar to Paul Bunyan. He was this guy who basically founded Brighton, and he supposedly was this local legend and hero who was known for things like befriending a bear and saving people from a hurricane by lassoing the hurricane. However, with some help from Libby, after she finds out that the guy whose ghost just happens to be around is actually just a giant egomaniac, with some help from Libby, Molly finds out that he's also a liar. That in reality, it was his sister who was the hero. And not even in like this fantastical tall tale kind of way. She just in realistic fashions for the most part. I mean, obviously the way she cut down the tree was a little Minecrafty, but I assume that was just exaggerated for the visual we were seeing. Like, she was known for chopping down trees. I'm sure it was like the actual realism behind it. And as we saw, like when she saved the people from the tornado, including her brother, all she did was like bring them into a shelter. She helped them to safety. But apparently she was friends with a bear, which, I mean, I guess that could happen. I mean, I'm sure there have been people who have had good relationships in that regard with bears, just as with any animal. But yeah, so after Molly and them find out, Molly is trying to basically prove it all, and then the dude comes in, starts trouble. Scratch gets help from the ghost of his sister, and all is put right with the history of it all, thanks to Molly. As I stated in the reaction itself, historical revisionism is a very huge thing, especially in America. A lot of American history is not what actually happened and was revised from the truth in order to fit a more patriotic viewpoint. Basically, it was revised to make the white man look like the good guy in every scenario. A lot of American history very much tries to paint the white colonists, for example, as good guys, and like they formed bonds with the Native Americans. They raped and murdered the Native Americans. Like, that's the actual truth. They raped and murdered them. They stole their land. They forced them onto the Trail of Tears. All kinds of stuff like that. The colonists were horrible, evil people. This is undeniable truth. And the problem is, it's historically revised. Stuff like Columbus. Christopher Columbus is seen as this, like, hero for America, basically, because he discovered it. And it's like, one, he wasn't the first person to discover America, for one. For two, he, again, raped and killed these people. And is just seen as a hero because that stuff was kind of just swept under the rug in history. And this goes for a lot of scenarios. A lot of cases. Especially with stuff even like the American Founding Fathers. They're painted in this grand light, and they were kind of terrible people themselves in a lot of ways. Almost all of them owned slaves, for example. And a lot of them treated their slaves like shit. There were a couple who were better about things, but better in relative terms. But the point is, this is a very real thing that happens. Obviously, it was done to a bit of an exaggerated degree here. But historical revisionism is very much a thing that happens a lot in real life. And unfortunately, it isn't as easy to solve as this episode would make you think. Because there are still people, a lot of people, who refuse to see how horrible the Founding Fathers or Columbus or people like that were. And yeah, it's becoming a lot more widely known and talked about, but it's still got a long way to go before we can fix things like that. And it's taken a long time for us to even get to where we're at. So it's like, I liked the episode. I enjoyed the kind of commentary it was saying, it was talking about, but at the same time, it is a very watered down view on it. I would suggest anyone who sees this actually look into this stuff for themselves and actually like learn the true histories about these people and what they've done to people of color and just the less fortunate and all. Because it's eye-opening and horrific, the kind of shit that they did. And again, this is just, it's so watered down because it's a kid's cartoon. You have to acknowledge that, but it's definitely something you should look into. Then we had the second half of this episode, in which there's a talent show going on at the school. Andrea is kind of, at the moment, going to be showing up everyone. And Libby usually signs up to work in the back. However, she accidentally signs her name this time to actually be in the talent show. And Molly encourages her to just go with it, saying that it's like, oh, this could be a blessing in disguise. Like, you could make this work and everything. And Libby is encouraged to sing, but she's not good at it. And Molly just keeps deepening the lie because she doesn't want to hurt Libby's feelings, basically. But it's making things so much worse. And there are kind of multiple issues with what Molly did here. First, forcing Libby into this, but then also keeping the lie going for so long instead of just being honest with her friend. Both of those are huge issues that, yes, Molly's a kid. She's going to make mistakes like this, but it's like, it's just like, ugh, it's hard to watch. But not too much so where it actually gets really like too upsetting and it just makes you hate it. It never gets that far, obviously. But after she does finally tell Libby, Libby decides that she's gonna go with it anyways. Her mother's out there waiting and everything for her, so she's gonna continue on to be brave and just do what she can. And she, instead of singing, does this spoken word beat poetry, which, as I stated in the reaction, I'm a big fan of stuff like that. Like, if you watch America's Got Talent, speaking of talent shows, the winner from like the other season was this guy who did spoken word poetry. And there were some people who were upset by that, saying it wasn't really a talent, but it's like, poetry is a talent, as is performative spoken word poetry. And it's like the people who say shit like that just because it's not singing or dancing or whatnot, it's like, shut up. So it's like I like seeing that she was actually really good at it. I like seeing Libby succeed at stuff. And I did think that this episode was going in a direction where it's like, oh, you can't force her to do this, you shouldn't force her to do this and everything. But instead it went in the direction of like, you should just be honest and everything. And that's an important lesson too. And I'm glad it worked out. And it was still, again, very entertaining, very fun, enjoyable to the bone, and just all the love for Libby. Between the first half of this episode with her in the detective gear, which was fucking amazing, and just everything, to her in the second half, just being the purest being she can be. It's like, yeah, how could she not be my favorite character? Like, honestly, how could she not? And all them motherfuckers were being very rude to her when she was singing. Everyone was being super rude, and that's not okay. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this one. It was very Libby-centric, and I'm always good for that. But we also got to see some good Andrea, even if not a lot. I'm just wondering, like, when is Libby going to find out about Scratch? Because I assume she's going to. I assume she will at some point. But we're still like, because right now it's just Molly and her family who know. So I assume at some point Libby's going to find out. I assume at some point Andrea's going to find out. And I wonder if that's going to possibly kickstart more of a major ongoing story. I have a lot of questions about it. I'm still very interested to see how this evolves as a series going forward. So we'll see as it goes. I'm very excited though. This one is definitely going to be a mainstay on the channel, just like Owl House and whatnot. It's going to be one of those shows that it's like, yeah, whenever there's new episodes and stuff, you know I'm going to react to them. But yeah, so after this, I think there's only 2 more episodes that are at least released so far, because I think there's only 10 right now. So we will continue to get to those within the next couple weeks. And then we'll tackle things for after that when we get to that point. But thank you all so much for understanding during this week about everything. And just thank you for continuing to be supportive of the channel and, well, myself even, when things like this occur. For now, yeah, I hope you have a good end of the year for 2021 and start of the year for 2022. And I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.